bit about that. I mean, did that take a lot of prep for you to, because it's such a personal, to stand in front of that many people and talk in that way? To say, were you nervous or?
Super nervous. Super nervous. I mean, I pitched the idea to the events team in Phorest, I mean, very, very early in the year, because, you know yourself, putting together an event takes a long time. There's a lot of behind the scenes work. And when they said, let's do it, I started, thinking about it more seriously. It was obviously very much tied to my personal journey as well, because what was happening at the time was I had just started medically transitioning. And for me, the salon and the salon, spa, clinic, industry in general at large has been a really amazing source of affirming parts of my identity. And also, like, in other circumstances, especially when I started medically transitioning and I was like in some in-betweens, I felt very uncomfortable in some spaces. And it's not by, I don't think it's ever been like an intentional thing, but just the way that businesses have been structured and, what the norm, quote unquote, is. And you don't necessarily think about policies or things or how, structurally things are put together. Then it, like, I felt the effects of, like, also feeling othered, and not fitting in, and like not being able to, I think I shared, like, when I was on stage, I shared, like, I didn't feel comfortable going into spas. Cause I didn't, it felt weird to have to explain what my situation is, explain, like, how I looked a certain way, but my ID card showed a different reality, and then going into changing rooms and how that was, and it's just like, so, but I think what it came down to for me, you asked about the nerves. I was, like, thinking about the podcast as well. We mentioned it on episode 1. My voice has changed, medically transitioning, taking hormones. It's masculinized my voice, gotten it deeper. It was like, okay, people who have been listening to the podcast for the past, like, 4 or 5, however many years it was at that point, I was like, they're going to notice my voice changing. How do I communicate what's happening in my life? I also had a moment that maybe people didn't necessarily realize. I think I did address it a little after, but not, like, in a very, like, in-depth way. But I reran quite a few episodes in, like, the start of a year, and it's because I got top surgery. And so I was out, of commission for a little while, recovering and stuff. And so I was like, how do I feel like there's a key kind of, like, story sharing moment in this, and I wanted to help the industry see how important of a place it had been for me, and also how there's so much more that we can do to help people feel like they belong when they walk into those spaces.
And that's where I think it was just beautiful, because yes, you needed to inform everyone of what was your transition, but there was also, everyone learned so much. And I think, we just need to throw away the box that people get put into. And like, at the end of the day, everyone's a person, And the thing is that I think you just, like, as I say, it was so beautifully done. But it was not only that you were taking someone on your journey, there were also, all the time, you could have just heard a pin drop. The thing is that it was, as I say, I don't think I've ever listened to anything and watched anything so well presented.
Thank you.
Yes, Phorest have great speakers, and also, like, I go to a lot of business events where there's, like, top key people there. But I would say that presentation and how you did that was the best I've ever heard.
It really means a lot. Thank you. But I think it really comes down to that human connection piece.
Yeah,
that's where I feel, and that's where I come back to again and again. It's like, there's so much power in sharing stories.
Totally.
in understanding each other's journeys and learning from one another and
Yeah.
our experiences. And I think that's really what I wanted to tap into with the keynote.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it resonated so much, because I remember people coming up to me after, and the shares that I would get from people of what they resonated with, you know, no one necessarily had the same exact story, right? The
Exactly.
same way that we were talking about that in the first episode. But like at the same time, they were relating to some experiences that they had and how they had felt.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh yeah, I went through this thing and I also felt like I didn't fit or I didn't belong or
Yeah.
I did. And so that's the piece that, like, when you're able to like tie it back to the human connection piece and the common experience that we all have as human beings,
Yeah.
I think it's going to resonate at large. And I think I didn't realize necessarily, I think that was the hope, but I didn't necessarily realize just how impactful it would be and just how much of a ripple effect it would have.